Taran, 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 taran. Hello? Hello? Is this thing on? Can anyone hear me? I reckon you probably can. The name of today's show is Hearing Voices. Papa, Papa, can you hear me? So today's show, hello, Kanaka Jane. Yes, you can hear me. I know. I was just being foolish. You know, sometimes I'm foolish. I like to be a fool. I'm a foolish kind of guy. So I fool around. Hey, what do you think I am? Some kind of fool? Today's show is called Hearing Voices. But you know what actually just happened, which is kind of weird? I saw something and I thought, I was like so sure. I was walking through a room and there was a box in the corner. And because 5 months after moving into our house, we're still unpacking. There's still boxes. We're renovating. It's a mess. It's always a mess. And I swear I saw at this box a mouse or a rat or something furry and about, you know how fish stories go, where you say it's that big and the next time you tell the story, it's that big. And the next time you tell the story, it's bigger than the screen. But I swear I saw something either go into the box or around the side and the back. And then when I was looking, I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it. There was nothing. And I thought, I must be crazy, or this is one crafty animal. What do you reckon? So that's seeing things. I'm pretty sure I did see a mouse or a rat. And just, you know, when you see a mouse or a rat or something in your house and you freak out. But then if you think about it, like, for centuries, we've lived in houses, buildings, castles, however we lived, and there's been rats or mice or rabbits or possums or snakes, whatever, spiders. We live with creatures around us. It's actually not that big of a deal. Do you want to have an infestation? Nope. But, you know, is what it is. No reason to freak out. You just go handle it. But today's episode, as I said, I know I get there slowly, I ramble, is hearing voices. And what I wanted to actually talk about, what I wanted to start unpacking for you all, is the idea of having a voice. See, I facilitate these classes called Right Voice for You. And it's funny because people still, they have this fixation that the class is going to be about your physical voice and improving how you sound, and it so isn't. But there's this whole idea of having a voice that is not necessarily about the physical sound you make, but about, well, I guess more about being heard or feeling like you have a place in the world where people can hear you and what you've got to say gets recognized and noticed. And that's a little bit more of what I want to talk about, because that's my aim with these classes, is to get people enjoying more and having some more freedom with the idea of having a voice in the world, being heard, not being shy and not thinking that what you have to offer isn't valid or valuable. So first of all, true story, Rudrani Devi. First of all, there's the idea of like actually having a physical voice. Hi, Martha. I love having all you guys here. If you have any questions or things you want to say or ask about, please feel free to just pop them in the chat here. Some of them will appear on the bottom of the screen as a banner. It's Jennifer Humby down in Adelaide. And some of them, they'll just remain as comments. We'll leave it at that. But having a voice in the world, or having a voice at all, physical voice, first of all, it's the noise that comes out of your head. And it's actually, the weird part about it is, you know, we have this thing called language, and we have singing, and we have music, and we have the expressive noises that we make, whether it's in the throes of passion or when you stub your toe, whatever it might be. But Your voice is actually a totally secondary characteristic. See, you have this larynx here in your throat, and you breathe in, and the little muscles in there, they flap together so that when you're breathing in, you don't accidentally also inhale food, wood chips, old phone books, whatever you might inhale. Probably not a phone book because that it would hit your head first and it wouldn't get down there, but who knows? So as these muscles clap together, as the air is passing through, you make squeaking sounds. And the squeaking sounds come out through your head and out through your mouth and become this thing called voice. And then we, in our crazy brains, have codified those sounds into this thing called language that we then interpret to have meaning. Ooh. Now, pretty well all of us, bar a few, unless you're mute. Saying someone's mute, isn't that funny? It's like someone took the remote control and went burp. Unless someone's muted you or you've muted yourself, has one of these things called a voice. But your voice in the world, like being heard, being seen, and expressing yourself, being creative, totally different thing. Like I quite often give people an example of having a voice in the world with my grandmother. My grandmother she wasn't really a very outspoken person, but man, could she cook. She could cook. Not only could she cook, but she could grow food. She had this amazing capacity with her garden to just it was fecund, shall we say. She just always had amazing things growing. She grew things that she didn't even want to eat. She just wanted to see if she could grow it. The town that I lived in was quite a farming community, and all the Italian people got to know my grandmother because she decided she was going to give growing basil a try. And she grew all this basil, and all these Italians were like, oh, give it to me. So she had these lineup of people coming to her garden to get whatever she had. And she became legendary in our town for that, for what she could cook, what she could grow, and that generosity of spirit that she was. She was always like picking buckets of extra apples and stuff and leaving them at her church or with her neighbors as hey, I've got too much, here, have it. That was who she was. And what's amazing to me is she's been dead 20, 30 years, but people still remember her for that. That was part of her voice and part of what she created in the world. So for you or me or anyone out there listening, it's like, what about, what are you saying to the world with how you're interacting with people? Like a few days ago, I was walking down the street. You know those days where you're just like, da, 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 super happy? And I was walking by this lady, and I said to her, you look great today. She had this bright green dress on and she just looked fabulous. And I stopped her, didn't know her. And I just said, hey, you look awesome. And she looked at me and she burst out crying. Apparently I was aware that she really needed to hear that. So what that got me thinking is, yes, that was me stepping out of myself to talk to someone, reaching into her world to say, hi, and acknowledging her. But what if that was like, as they say these days, normalize? What was that? What if that was how we operated all the time? Reached into everybody's world to say, hey, how you doing? I think you're awesome. And acknowledge them for something. It's like, I learned about this when I was a lot younger. I think I was like 18 or something. And I was at university my first year. And I was in the car with this friend of mine. And we were at a gas station. Hey, in a Basur, we were at a gas station. And the guy behind us at the gas station was getting really aggravated and really angry and annoyed. And he kept nailing on his horn. like for us to hurry up. And the lady I was in the car with got out of her seat and walked over to the man in the car who was being angry. And he rolled down the windshield and he was about to get angry. And she said, I know it really sucks that we have to wait like this. Is there anything I can do to make your experience a little better? I'm about to wash my windshield. Would you like me to do yours as well? And he couldn't be angry with her any longer. I remember watching through the rearview mirror as I was sitting in the car, fully expecting at this point maybe a bit of an altercation, or she was going to make him wrong and tell him to fuck off. But instead, there was this beautiful exchange of, hey, how can I contribute to you? You seem to be having a difficult time right now. And it was such a gift to watch this occur. And really, what if we could all do that all the time? What if we could be that voice in the world where we step into people's worlds and show them that there's something else possible, that things don't have to be so bad, that everyone is worth acknowledgement, praise, and to be told what a beautiful gift they are. Everyone deserves to be contributed to. So your voice in the world, what else? What else could it be that we maybe have decided it isn't or can't be? You know, like, I know for a lot of people, they think having their voice means being the loudest person and being like so out there that they get all the attention. And it's all about the self-interest of look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. What else is possible? What if having your voice in the world meant not taking up all the airtime, but connecting with other people with who you are, not cutting you off and making them greater either, but both of you coming together in this really beautiful interaction? See, that's the thing. Having your voice, you got to stop hiding. You got to let that voice out and be seen. Like I saw here, we had Jennifer Humby jumped on this live. I don't know if she's still listening. Yes, Annie, like an instrument in a symphony. Isn't that beautiful? But say with Jennifer Humby, who's just jumped on here, one thing I've noticed with her these days on social media is she's so present and there and engaged with people and showing up, showing who she is. Here I am acknowledging you, Jennifer. I'm glad you're still here. Showing up and acknowledging who she is, but not to try to prove that she's great. You know, you don't need to prove that you're great to be out there and have your voice. You just need to be willing to show up and not separate from anybody else. Thank you, Jennifer. It's such a gift. Every time I see you there, I'm like, hey, she's cool. Martha Castor says, the voice that we truly are that goes beyond words, right? Yeah. Sometimes words are so common, no definition, no bidding. Yeah, what you say actually doesn't really have much to do with anything. I mean, hang on a minute. Because one of the things that I've always related to was that the words that you say in your life are so powerful and they do create so much of how it shows up for you in your life. And don't get fixated on trying to say the right words. Like, have you ever met somebody who's really spiritually enlightened and everything they say is programmed and designed to reach the highest possible frequency and vibration, but their energy doesn't fucking match what they're saying? Like, they're all about peace, love, and harmony, but behind it, there's so much judgment about getting things perfect and being right that I'd so much rather someone just let it all hang out and show us who they actually are. And that's a big part of it too. Like, what impact in the world would you be if you let it all hang out and showed everybody who you actually are? And what would that change? Because all of us are so unique and different. You know, like somebody said here, Annie Mehmet said, almost like an instrument in a symphony. Yeah. But a symphony is made up of so many different instruments, right? So stop trying to be like somebody else's instrument and be your instrument. Sounds a bit like we're talking about genitalia. Your instrument, your tool, I don't know. But the long and the short of it is, you being you and sharing it with the world is a contribution. Not because you should be heard above anybody else, but stop trying to not be heard as though that's a contribution to everybody else. You know? And like that analogy of the symphony, that I often look at it like as a symphony or even as a tapestry. We talked about this on a class I did. You may remember me for such classes as The Hustler's Guide to Sales and Marketing. Coming soon to you as a prerequisite for all Access Consciousness facilitators. We talked about a tapestry and how each of us, when we're being the gift of us and the beauty of us, is like a thread in that tapestry, making it stronger and more beautiful and more dynamic. And that's the way I see things. Having you in the world and not trying to hide it, not trying to apologize for it, and not judging you at all enriches that tapestry. You know, if you think of the great creators and great artists and people who've invented things and painted things and come up with poems and songs, and even some politicians, they've changed the world by being them and giving birth, for lack of a better word, to a possibility that they were aware of. You know, like, what possibility are you aware of with everything that you create? Like, let's say you're creating, earthquake. Let's say you're creating, not really, I kicked the table and thought I would do something fun with it. Let's say you're creating a business, like you are opening a shop and you're selling soap and candles, because the world needs more soap and candles, right? Look, a little more clean, a little more smelly, why not? No matter what it is that your business is about, what if you approached it as, if I could create anything, I wasn't trying to create it to be what people would pay for, but create that shop or that business that I would love going to. You know, then what would you create? Like, every time I drive around and I see empty shop fronts, that's so exciting to me, because I always play this game of like, ooh, what would be great there? What would be a really fun possibility or offering in this neighborhood that doesn't currently exist? Who knows? Only choice. But when you're doing it from, not from the way we market in this reality and try and sell stuff, but from that truly beautiful creative expression of what you would like to see in the world. That's what I love to engage with and interact with as a business. When it's somebody's awareness of what's possible, rather than a boardroom's decision of what you will spend money on. You know what I'm saying? Does anyone out there in Facebook land have any questions, comments, concerns? I'm loving seeing some of the comments. Like this one. The voice that we truly are, that goes beyond words, right? Sometimes words are so common. I read this one already, Martha, but I want to talk about it again. From my experience, and anyone out there who's married will know that this is true, most people aren't listening to what each other says. Like, you know, when I was just talking about the words that you use in your life do have a huge impact into creating how your life shows up. Yes, but please get over the idea that people are actually listening to your words. How many times have you been in a situation, either an argument with a friend or a loved one, where you're like, you're not listening to me? That's the world. People are not listening to each other. But what they do engage with is the energy that you're being. Like, I'm married, and anytime there's like a little disharmony in our household, you can feel it tangibly when someone is upset and there's like separation between you. And when both of you don't have any barriers and there's no separation, you don't have to say anything to know that that's going on. You can just perceive the energy of when someone is available and willing to receive from you, and there's this back and forth of information and energy that is beyond words. And we can actually choose to be that all the time with everybody that will have it. Don't make yourself responsible for other people being willing to go there, because that's the road to judgment, making you wrong. Martha says, can you talk about finding your voice and being it? Yeah, really. I ask myself this all the time, because finding your voice is an interesting question. First of all, what if finding your voice wasn't about finding a definition? You know, like some people, they want to find their brand and rubber stamp who they are, and thereby what they'll wear and what they'll say and what kind of activities they'll do and the sort of people they'll associate with. What if finding your voice wasn't about defining it, but it was just a matter of letting your energy out into the world and having you in whatever you're choosing to be, to create at the moment? Like I was saying, my grandmother, how she cooked was a big part of her voice. What is it for you? For me, business and interacting with people is a huge part of my voice in the world. I get so much joy out of extrapolating with people. Like, if things aren't moving in my life and my business, one of the first things I like to do, pick up the phone and call somebody and start having a conversation and seeing what gets created from that. That's one way. What is it for you? And when you find out what works for you, what creation is for you, and what's fun for you, run with it. It doesn't take much to be it. It's actually not hard. It's easier to be your voice and your creative expression than it is to try and figure out what it's supposed to be, what you think it should be. You know, like, I have a really different way of articulating myself than a lot of my friends. One of my great friends, Simone Millicis, she is such a gift to me. I just had 2 hours of meetings with her this morning with our accountant. We have an accountant in common, and she's so cool and so generous and let me listen in on meetings about her businesses as well as some we have in common. And so that I could gain more awareness about different possibilities with finance. Such a great gift. But how she articulates herself, communicates, expresses herself, bees in the world, the things she creates, they're very different than mine. You noticed a lot of the stuff I do, for any of you who've seen this show before, there's an irreverence, there's a goofiness, there's a silliness. That's what those are the things that give me joy. And as Preeti here is saying, creation is joyful. Yes, this is what it's about. Creating from and being joy. But getting over talking about it, getting over thinking that you're going to do it, and just starting to choose and go and jump. Like, I'm a Right Voice for You facilitator. I sort of lead Right Voice for You as a Access Consciousness specialty class. If you want to know more about Access Consciousness, it's amazing. It's go to accessconsciousness.com and you can find out a whole lot more. And Right Voice for You is one of the programs within that. Some of you are tuning in from the Right Voice page, so you may already know about it. But I don't remember what I was talking about with that. Lost my train of thought. My grandmother always said to invoke her spirit again. If you can't remember, it's probably a lie. Preeti says she's excited about her first class with me, Right Voice for You, the end of this month. Awesome. I'm so excited about that class too. Oh, I remember what I was talking about. I was talking about creation and just choosing. Like what that class is about. It's not about getting you to a point where you just like, it's not about taking away your fear so that you let people see you. It's about having your fear and going, I don't give a shit. Yes, I get that I'm afraid. Yes, that I get that I'm worried about how I'm going to be received, and I'm going to go anyway. I'm just going to do it. Like one of the very first classes that I ever did, for a while when I first started facilitating classes, I did a lot of co-facilitation with other facilitators. And when I finally decided I was ready to do it on my own, I made a video of me in a blonde wig singing Like a Virgin by Madonna. Because I was like, all right, I'm popping my cherry, I'm going out there. And I looked at it and I went, oh God, this is like so silly, so ridiculous. What is this going to create if I actually publish this out into the world? And then I stopped myself and I went, what's the worst thing that could happen? Send. And just let it out there into the world. And that's what this class is about. It's about getting you to the point where you recognize the gift that you are and you stop hiding it because you're worried about how and if and when other people will receive it. You know that whole thing that you do before you put something out there where you go, oh, what's my hairdresser going to think? And the kid I went to high school with that used to punch me and all that. Like, who cares? Who fucking cares what anyone else is going to think or if they're going to judge you? And you know what? For every one of their judgments that you're willing to just receive, you'll make more money. You just will. Jennifer Humby just shared naked pics on Facebook. So empowering. Boom. Love it. Love that. Vulnerability, my friend. Letting it all out there and letting people see you without a point of view and without trying to elicit a predetermined reaction. You know, like that whole calculation of, well, if I put this out there, people will respond in a certain way and then they'll like me, like you've got like marionettes and you're trying to make everybody do your bidding. Fuck it. So, you know, I've got an amazing class coming up. I've got lots of things happening. My world of facilitation with these classes, my whole world has changed so much. I have so much more going on than I ever have before in every aspect of my life. And I've got a monthly thing that I do this month. It's on the 16th of June and it's a clarity night. It's 50 Australian dollars on sex and relationships. Anyone can come. And then this weekend, the 12th and 13th or 13th and 14th, I can't fucking remember. There's a class called Talk is Cheap, Let's Create. And it's about taking the tools of Right Voice for You and cutting out a lot of the conversations that we have. We'll still have conversations, but sometimes we can talk and talk and talk to avoid doing some of the activities in that class, the interactive parts of it. And this class is all about not let's just jump, let's just create, let's just do those things that are quote unquote part of our uncomfortable zone. You know, like, is that a thing? The opposite of comfort zone. So that's what that one's about. And then as Preeti mentioned, there's an amazing one at the end of the month, which is the 3-day class for Right Voice for You. And that's the intensive that dives into really having your voice, being your voice, cultivating this vulnerability, gratitude, all the things that make up us being us and interacting with the world with a sense of presence, charisma, and intimacy. If that's for you, I'm going to put my website down on the bottom of the screen here, mrchristopherhughes.com. I used to think it was .com.au. Not correct. And in the chat here, for any of you interested in jumping on to the one this weekend, Talk is Cheap. Yeah, Talk is Cheap, okay? That one is coming up in just a few days. So that's a one-day class, which is confusing because we do it over 2 days. COVID, who knows? Bye, honey. My husband's going on a bike ride. He's so damn cute. That's all I got for you today. You know what? It does sound fun. I know we bought bicycles just for the heck of it. And it's been such a joy. I named my bicycle Maximus. He's a lovely shade of sage green. Enjoy myself tremendously. So, if no one out there in the world has any questions, anything else they'd like to say, thank you so much. If you enjoy this show, the Mr. Christopher Show, it's every week at this time. Oh, she meant the class, but the writing, yeah. This Mr. Christopher Show is here on Facebook and is every week at this time on a Wednesday if you're in Australia. And I'm grateful for these conversations. I'm excited. This is one of the things for me that I've always wanted to do, was get my voice more out there in the world and share it with you guys. So if you like it, please feel free to share these lives, these videos with your friends, with your neighbors, with the people you dislike, with the tax department, for heaven's sakes. I don't know. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.